What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the KindaFunny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at KindaFunny. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, Snowbike Mike, and today I am joined with my two gaming dads, my favorite guys here on planet Earth, Mr. Parris Lilly and Gary Whitta. Parris, you get to be on second because I got a lot to talk to you about. So I'm going to start off first with my guy, the rogue one, Mr. Gary Whitta. Gary, we've had some fun. We've been playing Fall Guys together over on Xbox. How has your Spartan Showdown going right now? Did you get the cat ears Spartan helmets?
I got the cat ears. That whole Spartan event was actually one of the easier Fall Guys events I think that they've done. I was able to grab everything in less than a day. But it was fun to do, and I very much appreciate the purple cat ears helmet. It was fun, and I picked up the whole Master Chief costume bundle as well. So I'm fully in on the Halo's Fall Guy crossover right now.
Yeah, Gary, I totally agree with you. I think the event itself was really, really fun, easy to get through. There were a couple of question marks because, of course, if anybody's out there jumping in and wanting to get that awesome cat ear Spartan helmet, you got to find the Spartan helmet on each and every map. But there's some, Gary, like Tippy Toes, where you don't see it, right? Because it's underneath the map.
So
like,
I admit,
a couple times there,
I had to watch a YouTube video to figure out where the helmet on tiptoe was. All the others are really obvious.
Yeah.
The one on top, I was like, it's got to be under the tile somewhere, right? But I couldn't find it anywhere. And then because it's right at the beginning, like you go right by it without realizing. Yeah, but you grab those helmets, do a bunch of other rounds. Like there's all of the the criteria to qualify and get all the points that you need for the whole package of items. Is again, you can grind it out in like an afternoon. So it was good to grab all the items. And again, there's a lot of pink. If you play Fall Guys right now, there's a lot of cat ear Spartan helmets out there. So a lot of people have done it, obviously.
Yeah, it's really dope, Gary. I've had a ton of fun with that. I did have some issues with Big Shot. That's where you're on the balance beam platform getting shot at by different and controllers, and you got to jump up in the middle to get it. I could not get that for the life of me. It took me a whole night and a half. So
and that's the other wrinkle, right? They add blast balls to every level.
Yeah.
So I've had on that seesaw level. It was actually fun. I managed to knock some people off. It's fun. It's why I really appreciate the way that they through those events they keep things fresh with the little wrinkles and the rule set changes. I was watching Mike, you and your squad were playing the extreme squads mode the other night, where there's it's always like the most difficult version of the map. And there's no respawns, right? If you go off, even if it's like not a slime level, if you go off, you're done. So it's for elite level players anyway, only. And I've also been interested, Mike, very interested. And I want to hear about your progress and what your hopes and dreams for the future of this are. To get that last remaining achievement, that infallible achievement, 5 wins in a row, which I personally think is ridiculous. 3 wins in a row is heroic enough. Surely they should give you an achievement for that. 5 wins in a row, which I think only a tiny percentage of players have because it is so hard to get 5 crowns in a row. I want to believe that you can get it though, because I mean, you get crowns on a regular basis. The question is, can you string those 5 in a row? And how will you be feeling when you're in that, when you make it to that 5th in a row final round? And here it is, it's all on the line. Will you have the intestinal fortitude to tie? I want to believe in you, Mike. I really do. I really want to see you get that trophy.
Thanks for your belief, Gary. And I want you to know that I'm trying. Parris, I pushed my boys to the breaking limit a couple nights ago. I said, I want this trophy. We're going to get this, right? And we played for 2.5 hours. We got to 3. We got to 2. And then we just couldn't get over the hump. And the boys got let down, right? And so I changed them out. I got a new squad in. We got to 3 again. They got tired. And so there I was late at night, Parris. It was like 1 a.m. And I hit up one of my boys. I was like, JD, let's play all night. And he's like, Mike, I don't think I can do this for you. And I was like, I need this achievement, but I'm going to keep trying. 5 in a row is really difficult, is right, Gary.
Mike is burning through teammates, though he usually burns through controllers. Just remorseless. No, it's I want to go check like what, because it'll tell you like what the percentage of people is that have that achievement. I haven't checked, but I've got to believe it's like less, like 1/100 of 1% or something to have that. It's nuts.
If you like all those rare achievements on Xbox, now is your time on Fall Guys because you're getting all the rare diamond achievements, which is a nice little pop on your screen to make you feel good. But the Halo and Fall Guys collaboration right now has been a ton of fun. Go check it out. The beans are awesome. The Groot or the Grunt and the Brute are so cool. So please check that out. But Parris, I got to turn my attention to you for this intro because this intro is all about you. Of course, we didn't see you last week, so we haven't got to talk about the Tesla. But I'll tell you what, Greg Miller's been in my ear My guy Washburn's been in my ear. He said those two guys said you got to check Parris on his In-N-Out takes. So we'll talk about In-N-Out in just a moment. But let's start with the Tesla. Congratulations. You're riding the lightning, as our good friend Ryan McCaffrey would say. What's up with the Tesla? You having fun with it? How is it going?
I'm absolutely in love with it. And it's been so funny on social media. Anytime I say anything, everybody tags Gary. Like, you got to talk to Gary.
I'm trying to stay out of it because I don't want to. I don't want to harsh Parris's vibe. He's loving the Tesla. I don't want to be the guy that's spoiling his vibe. Like, yeah, I've had a bad experience with mine, but that doesn't mean that Parris is going to have a bad experience with his. I genuinely hope that he continues to have a good experience. But I don't want to be that guy like, oh well, just you wait, the bad times are coming. Like, no, I'm not that guy. But everyone's trying to stir some shit, tagging me in.
I know, it's funny. Well, but yeah, so I've had it for over a week now, and I have the Model 3, I have the long range, and all the research that I've done leading up to this since I've ordered it, and obviously I've heard what Gary's had to say about his. My suspicion is their build quality has greatly improved. Because what year is yours, Gary?
I think mine is like when did I get mine? I bought mine in 2018, so it's a few years old.
Yeah, so I think what's happened is their build quality has greatly improved over the last few years because I picked it up flawless, didn't have any issues at delivery, and I've just been loving driving this thing. I went up and saw Danny and Rihanna over the weekend, and just driving from my house up to LA, put the autopilot on. Oh. It's like the technology in this thing is just phenomenal. I went and checked out some superchargers around my area, just to see what it's like. I have a home charger at home, but yeah, I clearly this is the most technically advanced thing I've ever owned as far as a car goes, and the fact that I do not have to even look at a gas station anymore is.
I mean that part never gets old, and totally on the road. I will say on the road trips when I've driven to LA. And back on it, this is one aspect of it that I think Tesla has done really well, and to me, it's kind of their ace in the hole is the supercharger network.
Yeah,
so it's really, really good.
Yeah, it is. So it's funny. I checked out the supercharger that's near my house, and it's at a gas station. I think that's just the funniest thing ever. You see all these Teslas rolling into a gas station, but it's a supercharger. But yeah, I've not, knock on wood, had any issues at all yet. Nothing to complain about. I guess if I had a nitpick is, it does the regen braking, which I'm already used to it. But like my wife wants to be able to just drive it like a normal car. And you really don't have that option to do it. No matter what braking option you pick, it's still, once you take your foot off the gas, it's really, coming to a stop and stuff like that. So she needs to get used to it, driving more. But yeah, dude, this is the future.
I mean, they do drive ever so slightly different from a combustion car, and it takes a minute to get used to. Like you'll notice, like once you take your foot off the gas, like it doesn't coast like a regular gas vehicle. Like it just kind of like immediately comes to a stop. So there's just a few weird things like that. My other, because I'm trying to keep it positive here. Yes, I've had my problems with the Tesla, but also there's a lot of good stuff about Teslas and just EVs in general. I tell you my favorite thing, I don't know if you've done this yet, but like when you need to like accelerate quickly, like let's say that you're at a light and it's like, oh shit, I need to get over like 2 lanes, but these other cars are like lined up at the light with me. I'm going to need to pull away quickly ahead of these cars and get over there. In an EV, and specifically with a Tesla, man, do those cars pick up fast. You can pull away from a light or like just accelerate so fast. It's amazing.
Yeah, the acceleration is insane doing that for everything that you just said. But funny story, my son was driving and he did it. He was going 100 like in seconds. I'm like, boy, what are you doing? Slow down. But yeah, the acceleration is crazy. And yeah, it's just the whole EV, whether you get a Tesla or not, obviously that's just where it's going. Like I said, I don't see me ever wanting to get a gas car again. I mean, I'm obviously saving money. Gas prices are outrageous as it is now, but it's just so convenient that I can just charge at home. Like I plug in at night. I literally, and you can do everything from the app. It's insane how you can just do everything from the app. Yeah. So I just set it to charge at midnight every night before I go to bed.
Oh God, I forgot my other favorite thing is the summon. I don't know if you've used this yet. But I take my kid to swim lessons every week, right? And we parked in a spot. And then when I got back, someone had parked in the space next to us in such a way that like it was too tight. You couldn't get in. I couldn't get in the driver's side door. I was like, oh fuck that. What am I going to have to? We've all done this, right? Sometimes you got to go in through the passenger side, climb over into the driver's seat because the asshole next to you in the spot is like parked too close to you. Not with this vehicle, is what I love. So you go to the app, you click summon, and it will just like auto reverse out of the spot for you so that you can get in. I love that. It's actually saved me a couple of times when I've come back to the car and someone's put me in like a jammed up parking situation. The summon feature is brilliant. I love that.
So I won't out the person in case they don't want me to, but a certain person at Xbox has a Model 3 as well. And when I was up there last year, they did the summon feature. I thought that was just the coolest damn thing.
Yeah,
I've
it's
ever
very
seen.
cool.
Yeah, it was real awesome. Yeah, I didn't buy the full self-driving. I just got the basic autopilot because it's $12,000.
Yeah, and also, and it's still
Wow.
like, I mean, I had the option to buy that like 4 years ago, and I was like, if you buy it with the vehicle, you save some money. But like, here we are, almost 5 years later, it's still not ready to ship.
Right.
So
Still not.
wake me up when it's actually ready.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I won't bore everybody with all my Tesla talk. Obviously, people are already annoyed at me posting about it on social media.
We love it. I love it.
You got a new car. You should go nuts. It's fun to get a new.
I'm loving it, dude. I'm
Okay.
absolutely loving it. It's an amazing vehicle, and again, knock on wood, I don't have any major issues or anything come up.
I think a lot of the issues that I had with mine are specific to the Model X because there's so much more going on with a Model X.
Right.
But also, I think it may just been they had a bad the year that I got it. They had a bad year. I mean, if you go to the Tesla forums, there's people complaining all day long about their vehicles, but you'll get that with any vehicle company.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a long laundry list of things that annoy me about mine.
Yeah.
But so I'm genuinely like, as much as people were joking about it, I would hate for you to have like any of the issues that I had with mine. I'm glad you're having a great experience with yours.
No, I appreciate that. One more thing, and I'll be quiet. The whole ordering and delivery experience, I did everything on the phone. Everything.
Oh, cool.
Like when we test drove it, my wife, as we're driving back, she goes, order it. Ordered it on my phone. Everything as far as accepted delivery, the payment, everything I did on the phone. Then I went up there last week and grabbed it. I signed like 2 pieces of paper for like the DMV. And then my phone comes over. It knows it's me. And then all of a sudden I can, and then I made the phone is my key. So I make the phone my key. I get in, drive away. That was it. It was it.
That's handy sometimes. If I can't find my key, the car will do it for you. The other thing is nice. Is I would say if and when you do eventually have like a service issue with it, if it's something that doesn't need to be done in the shop, they will send a mobile tech out to you, like in a Model S, and he has all the gear in the back, and he'll I've had a lot of trouble with mine, so I've had the guys come out a lot of times. But again, it's all done from the app. You're just going to go, there's a problem with the car. Sometimes they'll ask you to like take a picture of what's happening with the car or whatever. But like usually pretty fast within a few days, they'll send out a guy in a tricked out Model S that has like all the stuff in the back, and like half of the things that can go wrong with a Tesla they can fix by coming out to you. So that's good as well.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I lied. Two more things. I swear I'll be quiet.
Keep going.
So the other cool thing again with the phone being my key is, so when I walk away, the car will automatically lock. I don't have to even think about that. And when I walk back to the car, it unlocks. I get in and you just go. I don't have to do anything. I just put it in drive and just go. I don't even have to press a button, nothing. And then the other cool thing is, like, I was having lunch with Danny and Rihanna. I look on the phone, I look on the app, and I see the internal temperature of the car was like over 100 degrees because it's so hot.
Precondition.
So I was like, oh, let's cool that down. So then I turn on the AC in the restaurant, and then by the time we walked to the car,
nice and
it
cool.
was nice and 70 degrees, good to go.
Do you have it set up for the door the driver door to open automatically for you when you approach?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So when I approach, boom, all that unlocks. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. No, not just unlock, but like the door will open.
Oh no, the Model 3 doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't do that.
Open.
Okay, the X does that. It's cool. It's very cool.
Guys, living in the future. I love that. Well,
and shout out to Ryan McCaffrey. McCaffrey, obviously good friend, amazing at IGN. His Ride the Lightning podcast has been a great resource for me over the past couple months. And a couple weeks ago when we were up in LA, we got to have a nice long extended conversation about everything Tesla. He's the man. If you're in the gaming world, you want to know about Tesla, he knows everything.
Yep, that's totally true. All right, Parris, you had a hot week on Twitter, not only with the Tesla, but Greg Miller said, Mike, you got to get after Parris because you also took some shots at In-N-Out. And that's me and Greg Miller's favorite burger joint. So I'm here to set the record straight with you. Give it to everybody in the Xcast audience. What's up with In-N-Out? Why are we bringing the heat towards it?
In-N-Out's not good. Period, point blank. And let me say this. I love how I give my opinion about burger, but I don't like In-N-Out, and people spin it into gaming. Yeah, Parris, but you say that gaming is for everyone, and we should do this and that. But then you slander In-N-Out. You're a hypocrite. I was like, call me a hypocrite then, because In-N-Out's not good. It's not. It's not. Like I've been living in California for 30 years, and while yes, I may go to In-N-Out every now and again, it is far from my first choice. I like the shakes. They got great shakes. Their fries suck, and their hamburgers are below average unless you do animal style. If I got to slather it in sauce and do the onions and all that, it's not good. It's not a good burger place. I'd rather go to Tommy Burger. I'd rather go to Fat Burger, or I'd rather go to my favorite Mexican joint up the street. They make the best hamburgers ever. Honestly, I'd rather go to McDonald's than go to In-N-Out. How about that?
Wow, I like that. I needed that sound clip right there to get us a bunch of views this week. So if you're in the comments right now, fire off at Parris or let him know that you agree with him, because I wanted that in the comments this week. But gaming dads, before we head in and start talking about video games, I do need to open up to you two. And I need my gaming dads here, because yesterday, a jabroni out on the internet took a shot at me.
Oh, I saw that.
Stuck with me, boys. It stuck with me. So the jabroni on the internet said that I currently look like Nigel Thornberry from the Wild Thornberries with my red mustache. And it hurt. It cut me deep down inside, because I've been riding this high of Top Gun Maverick, you two. And I thought, you know what? It's a Top Gun summer. It's a mustache summer. Nobody can bring me down. This jabroni brought me down, boys, where I think next week when you see me, I'm going babyface Mike. We're shaving this off, and we're not with no more mustache starting next week.
I believe you let some random internet troll get to you. You're so far above that, Mike.
Yeah.
But he burned me so good, Gary. You know what I mean? When you get the burn that
it was,
good,
I mean, it was a pretty good burn. I'll give him credit for that.
Now, Parris,
I
you
literally
had the mustache.
I literally can't unsee it now. Everyone I saw that, I was like, I can't unsee it. But you know what, though? Don't let the internet tell you what to do. If you want to keep that mustache, you keep it.
Honestly,
Exactly
here's
right.
the thing, Mike. They make the comparison, and I don't. I take it less of a shot at you, and I take it as them wanting to make Nigel Thornberry look cool as fuck.
Oh, okay. Shout
There
out.
you
I
go.
mean, he is a really cool dad, right? He's very knowledgeable. He was having fun. But yeah, that was a shot that's going to stick with me. So all of our audience members out there, it's that one hurt. That one hurt me, and I'm going to remember that. But we got to get into the gaming news, because there's plenty to talk about and a whole lot of fun to have. So let's jump into it. Of course, this is the Kinda Funny Xcast. We post each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, roosterteeth.com, and of course on podcast services around the globe. Don't forget, we are now Epic Games partners, which means if you are jumping into Fall Guys, currently now on Xbox and free to play everywhere, and you get the opportunity to use our Epic creator code at checkout for buying awesome V-Bucks in Fortnite, or maybe even buying kudos and beyond in Fall Guys, please use our Epic creator code KindaFunny at checkout to help support the team. And talking about support, we want to give a big thank you to those of you who support us over on Patreon. And for the month of July, give a shout out to our Patreon producers over on YouTube, or patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames, Fargo Brady, Delaney Twinning, James Hastings, and Casey Andrew. Thank you all so much for your support. And this week, the Kinda Funny Xcast is sponsored by Athletic Greens, but myself and the team will tell you all about that in just a little bit. Guys, let's jump into it, because there's been a lot of games that have recently come out, and we got to talk about the games, right? We can talk about all the Xbox news we want, but there's some great games that have just dropped. And Parris, I'm going to start off with you, since me and Gary talked about Fall Guys. Let's talk about Outriders. Brand new DLC just dropped. Of course, that is Worldslayer. You can go check that out. There is a $40 price cost on that, and that's what I want to talk about with you, Parris, because I think a lot of Xbox gamers really enjoyed Outriders, and they got a really big surge of positivity and player base thanks to Game Pass, right? But now, here we are with our first true DLC, $40 for Worldslayer. Let's first talk about your impressions thus far. What have you thought about the DLC?
I mean, it's good. It's good. I'm enjoying it for what Outriders is. I think this has been a nice natural progression for in-game content for them. For this particular game, the mods and things that you can do now. Obviously, abilities are still fun to use. The guns do feel good. I still nitpick that the areas that you in are so like there's too many load screens. Let's put it that way. Where I'm in one area fighting. All right, now I'm gonna go do the next thing. I gotta basically kind of go to this thing. It's gonna load me into the next area. It's a nitpick. It's not that big of a deal. But then when I compare it to other games that you have no choice but to compare it to, like The Division or Destiny or something like that, you're not running into that as often as you are, you know, in a game like Outriders. Worldslayer itself is good. I've never been a huge fan of the story stuff that Outriders has had. I've been more of a let's just get in and shoot some stuff and have fun doing that kind of thing. But it's that $40 price tag that I think it's ultimately going to hold this back and ultimately stop people from wanting to come in and give Outriders a second chance, right? Because, you know, we talked about this last year when Outriders came out. It was great that it was on Game Pass. It was one of those, we all played it for 2 weeks, we put it down and we moved on. And not to mention some of the technical issues that Outriders was having at the time as well. I feel like that $40 barrier to entry is going to stop a lot of people from going, you know what, let me pick this up and try Outriders again. I mean, I think they did a good thing where, you know, you can right into the Worldslayer content, go to level 30, all that is great. But you're telling me I got to spend $40 for that. And I'm going to clarify that by saying, because obviously, you know, I love Destiny. I played it all the time. I feel like Destiny, after so many years, they've earned the money that the $40 that you have to spend on their big expansions, because look at all the content that they're consistently giving you content over a year period with the story, you know, the seasons, all that stuff. Whereas this is not going to do that. We're going to play it we're going to play it for a few weeks. We're going to have fun with it. And we're probably going to put it back down again. And you just drop $40 on this. So I don't know about the long-term viability of the Outriders franchise, because I just don't know if they're going to be able to gain enough of the community to actually engage with it, to where every Friday night, hey, let's go play. I want to go play Outriders with 3 of my buddies. They're going to be playing something else. They're probably not going to be there to want to go play it, no matter how much I may like it or not. So I think this is good content. It very well may be worth the $40, but I think attaching that $40 thing to new content after such a long period of time, I just think a lot of people are going to be hesitant. They're going to go, you know, I'll wait till it's on discount or something like that. I don't see a lot of people running out and picking this up day one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Parris. When I asked my friends, hey, do you want to go check out the new Outriders DLC content? They were like, is it on Game Pass? And when I said, no, it's $40, they quickly just shut me out and did not want to play that with me. So it was kind of hard, right? But thankfully today I jumped in with Blessing and Greg for some sponsored content. We went and checked it out. And I'm right there with you. I think Outriders gameplay is fun, right? The tight third person over the shoulder shooting is a good time. I think the outrageous and crazy move sets between all of the 3 different classes is really cool. And there's a lot that happens on screen and you feel good, as Gary used to say with World of Warcraft, right? You see those numbers constantly go up and you kind of smile and you enjoy that, right? And then when we talk about the DLC itself, in a 3-hour stream, we got through all of the story missions, right? Now, mind you, this is end game content, so there was even more for us to do. But when you talk about the story, we blazed through that in just 3 hours, right? And that's my kind of big part of Outriders, was I never identified with the story at the beginning. And this one, again, when we watched some of the cutscenes, it still felt like the same Outriders to me, where none of these characters mattered to me. They would give me a couple one-liners, and I just never really cared or bonded with any of them. But I do like the biomes, right? That was one thing they promoted was, hey, you're kind of going to a new world, a new part of this world, and you're going to see some different looks to it. And as opposed to the jungle and desert setting that we had, we went kind of more snowy on this one, right? And there was a couple of cool pieces where you walked in and all the snow transformed away and you were in this cool oasis, but it didn't really feel that much different than the rocky crags of the desert, just with snow on top of it, right? And so when I think about the new areas and the enemies, there weren't that much differences, right? There was a couple of small new giant dog creatures and like small things running around, but you were still slaying like normal demonic looking human beings running at you, right? So the $40 price tag was really tough for me to swallow, and I don't think I can convince my friends to jump into it. But for the time being, it was fun enough for 3 hours. Just kind of a head scratcher. $40 DLC is tough, right? After Game Pass. And I don't know about this one, Gary. That's why I turned to you. You know, me and Parris give you some of our early thoughts and impressions. $40 for this. Would you jump into that?
So I didn't play the original game or the DLC, so I can't speak to the quality of either. But I think that's kind of the problem. is that there are a lot of people like me, right, that just kind of passed on this game when I remember when it first came out, and it made a bit of a splash for like 5 minutes, right? I remember a lot of my friends were playing it on stream. It was the game of the minute. It was the game of the week that week, but then its moments seemed to come and go quite quickly. And I think I seem to remember there was some complaints about balancing. People weren't thrilled with some of the weapons or some of the bosses. There was a lot of, so many of these games take, multiple balancing patches once they get out into the world. You can beta test it all day long, but you'll never really know how, I know it's not a live service game, but like a big multiplayer game like this, you never really know how it's going to work until you put it out in front of like the mass audience. And then, the QA tickets start to come in and you start to realize, oh, this isn't working the way that we planned. And it's interesting that this is kind of part of a pattern now, that sometimes it's not until the first major expansion that a game kind of like starts to really kind of find its feet. I remember this happened. Parris, you'll tell me correct me if I'm wrong, because you're much more of a Destiny expert than I am. But I seem to remember that Destiny, even though it was a hit when it first came out, didn't really feel like it found itself until Taken King came out, right? The first big expansion.
It was a year later, yep.
And maybe that's the plan here. But the problem is Destiny, because it was Bungie and it was a massive, massive thing, even though a lot of people weren't happy with it, it was still really popular and people were playing it. So when Taken King came out, even though that was a premium price expansion, people were willing to, maybe this is what'll get us there. And it was. And that kind of that really turned the corner for Bungie and the whole Destiny story. If you've got a game like Outriders, I don't know the numbers, but it kind of feels like it can't be that big, right? You've got like a dedicated but small number of people playing. If you're like, man, we really need to like breathe some life into this game, I don't know if a $40 expansion is the way to turn people's heads.
Yeah, that's the tough part right there.
Yeah,
And
that's the problem.
yeah, and now the interesting question is who's calling the ball here? Is Square Enix calling Phil, saying, hey, let's work out a deal for this DLC? Does Phil call them and say, hey, we've had the game for almost a year now on Game Pass, like let's figure out how to put this DLC on? Is that time and effort worth it to you, Parris, to try to maybe get a big DLC into Game Pass? Would that excite people here during the summer months?
You bring up two things I want to touch on that. While I do think it probably makes sense for Xbox that if they could work out a reasonable deal to get that into Game Pass, hey, that's just more content, more value to that service. But at the same time, we are starting to run into this thing, like you said it yourself, Mike. When your buddies found out it wasn't on Game Pass, nope, we're out. We're not going to get it. I wonder, and I'm just saying this out loud, I wonder if we're starting to get to that point within the Xbox community to where Game Pass is being, what's the word I'm looking for here, kind of used as a crutch in a way. Like, as much as we love the service, as much as we know that great discoverability, you're going to get to play games that you would not necessarily play, as in this example with Outriders. When I think about Square and I think about People Can't Fly working on all this content, does it, I'm trying to say this the right way, but is that a problem that there's already an expectation that their DLC should be in Game Pass, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Where in other words, we worked hard on this. There was a lot of development time that went into this. We made all this content. We were trying to sell it for $40. Obviously on PC and PlayStation, you're gonna have to spend that $40. But is it, if it's Xbox, if it ain't on Game Pass, I'm good, I'll wait. Yeah, I hope we're not getting to that point. If you have good quality content, and it's up to whatever individual thinks what is worth their money, but I would hate to see great content get passed on just because it's not in Game Pass. If what I'm saying is making sense.
I'm feeling that, Parris, and I'm kind of I feel that, and I'm also thinking to myself of like, is the game worth it, right? Like, is that game your cup of style? Is that game your style? Is that game what you want, right? Because when you look at it, I don't think the mass audience really attached themselves to Outriders past that initial Game Pass first month, right? After that, when you look at it, would this draw a big enough crowd if they were like, hey, Outriders DLC now on Game Pass, right? I think a lot of people look at it and it's like, that's more Outriders. I'm probably not going to play that anyways. So they're just going to skip that entirely. I don't know if Game Pass would just skyrocket the numbers again, right? If this was the same thing right now, would we have a crazy talk about Game Pass and this with the mass audience?
Right. And I guess that's what I'm saying. It's almost a thing of, Outriders needs to be able to stand on its own without having Game Pass being the thing that's supporting it to get people into that community. Again, I know I keep going to the Destiny analogy, but if you think about it, Destiny was in Game Pass at once upon a time,
and they brought all the DLCs, and people went crazy. If you remember that,
and that was great.
That was a great time. Yeah,
but it had a long history before it ever went into Game Pass of being self-sustaining, and obviously it's going to continue to be self-sustaining afterwards. Where it almost seems like Outriders. Hey, I hate to be picking on Outriders, but in other words, that community is not going to grow for Outriders standing on its own. It needs that subscription service to get it to grow instead of it being a supplement for it to grow. Look, as much as we love Game Pass, obviously all their first party stuff is going to be in Game Pass. We get that. That's why it's very enticing and exciting. But when I look at third party content, while it'd be great to get some of the day and date stuff that can come third party to Game Pass, not everything that should not be a requirement is what I'm trying to say for everything third party coming into the Xbox ecosystem. Those games should be able to stand on their own. Us as a community needs to obviously support these games and not just sit back and wait for it. So I'm almost looking at it from both ways, where even me as a gamer, if again, I'll go back to last year with Death's Door, would have been more than happy to spend $20 on that. I didn't need that to be in Game Pass. It's in Game Pass now. Great. More people can play it. Point is, if you have a great game, I shouldn't have to rely on the subscription service to play it if it's great on its own. I hope this is making sense. I feel like I'm kind of all over the place.
I'd love to see the comments. I see what you're talking about, and I feel that with Outriders, right? I just don't think it's a strong enough game to justify the $40 price tag unless you're deep into it. If it's on Game Pass, I think we would have had a different conversation in a pop, but it just isn't that great of a game in my eyes. That's all.
No, I think there's something to it. I think Game Pass can be a real lifeline for games like this, or even not even just like a second chance, but even just like maybe this should be the model for these games going forward. You remember, Mike, you and I played that Dungeons and Dragons game that we were only kind of like halfway interested. Yeah, we'll give it a try because it was on Game Pass, right? Had it been a good game, we might still be playing it today. Well, it wasn't very good, but at least we tried it, right? Because Game Pass gave us that, what have we got to lose, right? The install button is right there. I think, to your point, Mike, the problem is, and I've had experiences with, I had this with a game just recently where there was a multiplayer game that was really meant for like a group of people to play together. I was interested in it, but I never got into it because I couldn't rustle up 3 or 4 other people that were equally interested, especially when they're like, what is it, $50? I don't think so. If it were on Game Pass, though, I could have put a group together easily because, again, there's no barrier to entry. So I think increasingly for games like Outriders or any kind of game where, the real meat of it, the real fun of it is going to be in squatting up with your friends, that's a higher bar, right? It's hard enough to convince one person to drop $50-$60 in a game, but like convince a group of people who all know each other and who all might have like varying tastes and appetites and, to all like kind of go in together. That's harder to do. At least when it's on Game Pass, or it's free to play. I mean, Game Pass is kind of like free to play without technically being free to play, right? It's free to you if you have Game Pass, even though there's still some monetization going on. That to me, I think, is a much more effective way to get a group of players to at least try your game. I mean, just look at Fall Guys, right? I know we've been talking a lot about Fall Guys this week, but Fall Guys is a game that a couple of years ago had a tremendous debut, right? It was super popular for like pretty much all of 2020. It was one of the big games of 2020, and then inevitably it fell off, right? And it got to a point where it was nowhere near as popular as it was. But check out this last couple of weeks, right? It's back, free to play. Yes, it's on other platforms as well, which I'm sure helps. But the fact that it went free to, if it had just dropped on Xbox and Nintendo Switch, but it was still like $20-$30, there's no way they'd be putting up that 20 million number that they were bragging about this week. 20 million people playing Fall Guys. That's probably bigger than it ever was. Never underestimate the power of something being free. A lot of people have decided to give it a try because it's free. That, as we've said a million times, is the key benefit of Game Pass. Why not give it a try? I'll give you an example. I just installed Far Cry 5 on my X. So that just dropped on Game Pass this week. That was a game that I was like kind of interested in when it first came out, but not interested enough to drop the $60 on. Now it's on Game Pass. I'll happily give it a try. So a lot of games, I think, can get either a better chance at a first look or at least a second look when they do show up on Game Pass.
But I think that articulates my point a little bit better, that the way I look at Game Pass as far as third-party games go is like you said, it's that second life after it's had its quote unquote retail run, right? Where now this third party game is in Game Pass. Maybe it didn't sell as well. Maybe it was popular and I just missed it, but now that's part of the service. Oh yeah, I heard a lot about this. I heard this was great. Let me go check it out. And like I said, there's going to be these instances where you're going to see some of them come day and date. But I think what I think I'm trying to say is, I just hope as an Xbox community, we're not expecting everything to come day and date, to where if you don't see it day and date there, you're just going to, well, I'll just wait a year. I'll just wait till it comes on Game Pass. I'm not going to buy that now. We have to make sure that we're still, if we're interested in a game and we want to play a game, we still need to support these games, because not everything is going to be in Game Pass when you expect it to be. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I mean, in that conversation, we'll have it moving forward.
We've talked about this before. And I don't think it's in the future. I think it's already here. Like, I already have that feeling. Like when a game comes day and date on Game Pass, you definitely go woohoo. And you're very happy about it. I noticed recently when like Shredder's Revenge, right? I was oh wow, what a treat! I was probably going to get that anyway, but now it's on Game Pass, like even better. But then like because Game Pass has now established, basically a baseline for itself, where like you never know it. It's not like, oh, but that game's too big to come to Game Pass, right? We've seen all before, like many games that you think are too big to come to Game Pass have come to Game Pass. So now like anything's possible. So any game that's being announced prior to that news, that partly, is it Game Pass or not? Like you kind of think it could be. And then when it's not, I do have like a negative, oh, really? And then now suddenly the idea of like, I almost kind of like become allergic to the idea of like buying games a la carte, because I'm just so used to Game Pass serving them up. I'm like, why would I spend $50 on this game when I could go play and I could go play something else on Game Pass, or just wait for that game to show up on Game Pass as it might do eventually. So it's made us all a little bit allergic to the old fashioned a la carte purchase model.
But yeah, that's actually my point. You said it great, because like Shredder's Revenge is a great example. I was getting that game no matter what, right? That was a game I knew I wanted to play. I would just hope that, it came to Game Pass and that's great. But just because it didn't come to Game Pass, I'm not going to sit there and go, all right, well, guess I'm not playing Shredder's Revenge because it's not on Game Pass. No, I'm going to go buy it. I think how much was it? $30 or something like that, right? But the point is, to what you're saying, Gary, is I hope that doesn't become the norm, where people are seeing games they know they want to play, they know they've been anticipating, they fully expected, to get day one, but because it's not on Game Pass, now you're not going to go pick it up. I just hope that doesn't become the norm. Whether it becomes the norm, I think will take a long time to shake out. I just know for me personally, again, like with Shredder's Revenge, were it not on Game Pass, yes, I still would have picked it up. But like, I would have resented hitting that purchase button a little bit, because again, we've just been so spoiled. I'm like, what is this? The Dark Ages of paying like money for like an individual game? That's not how it's supposed to work. The subscription model is the new shit, right? And so we get so used to it with Game Pass that when as a lot of like major releases still do, fall outside of kind of Game Pass's catchment. And I realized, I'm going to play this game. I'm going to buy it. Like 5 years ago, this was all we did, right? We just bought games a la carte. But the Game Pass has spoiled us all so much that going back to the old ways of like buying a game individually, it just feels a bit weirdly old fashioned to me now. Yeah.
The Game Pass effect, part of the Game Pass effect. And we'll definitely be talking about that a lot in the future, is right. Let's talk about a game that I've just fallen in love with, guys, that I got to tell you all about alongside my good friend, Barrett Courtney. Cuphead, the delicious last course, is now out. The big DLC is finally here after years of waiting. And guys, I became addicted to it. We played this on Thursday for Tim Getty's 30th birthday. And I thought, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines for this stream and just hang out. I turned it on, and, shout out to Studio MDHR. They make it very accessible for new players to jump in to the DLC content, if that's where you want to start, or at least, kind of jump right into wherever you were last off on your original game. And it is a blast. I mean, we'll talk about the art style with Barrett. We'll talk about some of the cool bosses and stuff, but the DLC was so much fun. And for me, as someone who loved Cuphead, but found it too difficult, I think this team really did a great job for new players coming in and making it a little more approachable. They have what's called the crack shot inside of the store that you can buy pretty much right off the bat when you jump into the DLC. And essentially, it's just its own homing shot where you could be aiming anywhere on the map and it's going to find a target for you. And the big one for me is I always found it difficult to enjoy the beautiful visuals of the game, try to get past the punishing different phases of boss fights and different enemies on the screen and all the projectiles that you got to be dodging and then also aiming at the same time. I always found that hard. But with the crack shot, I was able to kind of take one small piece off my plate, and it felt way more fun to play because now I could focus on the other things that were coming at me. And so for me, I fell in love with it. And next thing I know, it's 5.5 hours later, I'm rolling credits on the DLC, and I want to get into the main game now. So the Delicious Last Course for me is something this week that is a must play, must buy right now if you are into Cuphead. And it's one of those journeys of like, I've always loved games that are punishing and challenging. I'm a guy that likes direction. I like to learn something and then perform it and then get better at it each and every time. And Cuphead is that kind of game style, right? You're going to learn the boss's movements. You're going to get better each and every time. You're going to fail off the punishing reality of it all. And then you're going to overcome it and you're going to feel great. And the DLC did that for me. So I'm really, really pleased with what Cuphead DLC just did. But Barrett, you and I got to play it together. What did you think about it all?
Mike, before I give my thoughts, I think maybe it's time for a little break. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. You want to run it to ads? Well, guess what? You don't get to hear about Barrett's thoughts until after you listen to a word from our sponsors.
This podcast is brought to you by something Tim literally uses every day. AG1. Tim's birthday is June 30th, and he decided to give himself the gift of taking care of his body with AG1. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things! Tim mixes AG1 with his water, loves the taste, and says he's feeling better than ever. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews, and Athletic Greens is a climate neutral certified company. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/kindafunny. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/kindafunny to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutrition insurance.
All right, so let's talk Cuphead DLC. Absolutely adored it. We were talking yesterday, I think it was, yesterday, right? On stream about, I didn't realize how excited I was, and I think it was just because I was trying to go in as blind as possible. Like, I saw the footage from Summer Game Fest, more so just because I had to direct shows where we were showing that gameplay, more so than actually wanting to see it, because I love Cuphead, and I just wanted to, like, kind of go in knowing as little as possible so I could, like, really experience everything. And I don't know how MDHR does it. Like, I think even just, like, the animations this time around, they were already really impressive in the base game. I don't know how or why, but I feel like they even upped it in the Delicious Last Course, and I had a great time. Like Mike was saying, of just like downloading kind of a boss movement, what the kind of patterns are for certain phases and all that stuff, and dealing with all of the chaos going on screen, while also not just trying to beat the boss, but, you know, get the best grade possible, right? Trying to go out on top with, you know, full health, using as much as your special as you can, parrying as much as you can, and it was just, it really brought me back, because every once in a while I replay the game, and every time I was like, man, I need new bosses to go after, and it was awesome to finally get, like, I think like 6 traditional Cuphead bosses as we know them, and instead of like the run and gun kind of levels from the original kind of game, they have this new, I think it's called like the King's Leap Gauntlet or something like that, where you're going through and fighting enemies that kind of represent pieces of a chessboard, and all you have is your parry, and you have to parry them a certain amount of times. And that was something like really cool and creative. That was, you know, something simple, and probably something that I wonder like how early they thought of it, maybe even in the development of the original game, of like, oh, this is something that we utilize in the middle of like regular fights. Like, let's try to push that even further, where you can only think about your parry and design around that, which was like something that I hadn't even thought of until, and something that I think we saw footage of, like this horse in like the trailers, but I hadn't really registered what was actually happening here. So when we got to that on stream yesterday, I was like, wow, this is really cool and something I wouldn't have thought of for a follow up to Cuphead. Something I want to talk about really quick is just like the future of MDHR, and like I don't necessarily need a Cuphead 2. I would love it, but something that really just thinking about whatever they follow up with, whether it is a Cuphead 2, whether it is something else, I really want them to do something horror with the art style that they've been using for Cuphead. I don't want to show any footage, but yeah, I rolled credits last night. It wasn't super long. It's just one new aisle, so I got through it pretty quickly. There are a couple of bosses that I was fighting late last night where I thought to myself, this is creepy as hell. Like the way that they're playing around with some animations and stuff like that, I was like, this is a scary time. The only thing I'll show, I found a video of it here, and I'll have to remove the Xcast logo here. But you know, your little what's this guy called? Like your little
Hourglass.
Yeah, your hourglass here, who's usually like bouncing up and down and stuff and really happy. You go into a boss fight and he's just dead. And that's all I'll say of just like how weird and creepy they got with this DLC. And I was, again, something else that I was not expecting. And yeah, it really blew me away. I was really just excited for, you know, more of the same, but there was something about this DLC where I feel like they even upped the ante in several ways. Again, a really cool aerial fight that I don't want to spoil, right, because it's the first weekend, and I know people are going to want to take their time really digesting this. There's an aerial fight where you're not actually controlling the plane. I showed like the first phase of it earlier, but you're kind of like controlling where your bullet buddy is kind of going, depending on like where you are on his plane. And the way this fight progresses in the third phase is truly insane. And again, I don't know how they did it. I know this is just DLC, but I feel like just this DLC is probably one of my favorite games this year.
Oh, love hearing that. Now, Parris and Gary, I turn my attention to you two. Parris, I was going to ask you at the beginning of the podcast, are you playing Cuphead in that Tesla yet? Because that was a story they did way back in the day. Oh, that's right. You can play Cuphead. Are you playing yet in that Tesla? And are you going to play this DLC?
Well, I'll answer the first question. No, I keep saying I'm going to connect my Xbox controller to the Tesla and go sit in there and do it. Like literally just sit in my garage one night and just go play or something. But no, I haven't done it yet. And as far as this DLC goes, have not played that yet either. That's on my to-do list. Hearing both of your impressions has me excited to jump into it because I really did like the first Cuphead, even though it was hard as hell. I'm really looking forward to jumping into this one, and you know, got to check it out a little bit during Summer Game Fest. So yeah, it looks fantastic. I can't wait.
And so I just want to. It's only $8, which blows my mind. With
really?
how long they've been working on just the DLC alone, which has been at least 4 years. Because I remember being at E3 2018 and they were talking about it like it was coming out within the next year, and granted it's 4 years later, and you know they are almost perfectionists in that way where they will take their time and not be afraid to kind of like go into the shadows a little bit and not talk about it until they're ready. And yeah, it blows me away that they put this much work and effort into this DLC, and it's $8 with the amount of bosses that you're getting between the core bosses and the kind of mini parry bosses. And then just all of the secret stuff that I started like creeping into last night, and it's so impressive.
Guys, we only have a little bit of time left, and I got a couple of stories I want to blaze through. So let's jump into the first one. Yo, what's up with EA? Okay, because Twitter's been crazy the past couple of months. Maybe it's the summer sun setting in. People are getting a little too hot. But last night, EA, Electronic Arts, decided they were going to go on Twitter, hop on a new TikTok trend, which I'll talk about in a second. But they put one out, guys, that made me scratch my head, and I said, say what? So let's talk about it, because yesterday, as I said, the newest TikTok trend right now is she is a 10, but, and then they give you something bad, and then you re-rate that person on how attractive or how much you love them. And so EA decided they wanted to jump on it, and they wrote, they're a 10, but they only like single-player games. Now, Gary Whitta, what's up with that, big dog? I mean, EA, are they not reading the room? Why would you go onto Twitter and put that out there just to get roasted?
it's silly, and I think it's always embarrassing. It's always very kind of how do you do, fellow kids, when brands try to, elbow their way into these kind of organic, meme conversations that bubble up on the internet, on a regular basis. This is by far, this isn't even close to like the most egregious kind of brand, putting their foot in it that I've seen in the last few weeks. There's always something worse, but yeah, it just comes off as kind of like no one's gonna. I mean, do they really think that like this is going to have a positive impact on their brand? Because again, every time you look at one of these tweets, go check the replies, and it's just brutal. They are getting eviscerated because people for the most part can see through this. They know it's a brand. There is something kind of inorganic and inauthentic about it. Anytime like a major corporate brand tries to say, tries to get involved in a meme or even to say something kind of sincere, it always comes off as somewhat insincere or inauthentic, because we know that corporations and brands, they're not really on our side. They, again, it's all about money. It's all about increasing, shareholder value. They'll do whatever they can in order to kind of increase their mind share. And I think most gamers and most people on the internet can generally see through the kind of transparent cynicism of that. So I don't know. I think brands for the most part I think there are some good examples, like the Staycoms Twitter is constantly killing it. There are some good, every now and again, like a brand will come up with like a real winner and do something genuinely funny, but those are real unicorn, kind of like black swan moments compared to most of the times that, especially a big, like generally kind of unpopular brand, like something like EA. Like EA is a big company, but it's not a popular company. Most people don't like EA, right? And especially on the internet, you're gonna wade into a lion's den anytime you try to kind of like pass yourself off as one of the cool kids when everyone kind of knows that you're not. It's like this, like everyone knows that everyone knows that EA is a cop, right? And everyone's like, oh, shut up, a cop just walked in, kind of thing. As soon as like EA says, hey, what's going on with this fun meme conversation, kids? I've got a funny joke too, and everyone's like, oh god, it was fun for a while, and then our parents showed up. Basically, is the vibe when one of these big brands tries to kind of get in on one of these moments. Every now and again, it can work. But honestly, if I ran one of these big social media accounts for a company like EA, I would just stay out of all of that shit because 99% of the time it backfires.
Yeah, you could be Radio Shack.
Yeah.
Oh, so my wife said to me yesterday, have you checked out what's happening on Radio Shack's Twitter? It's really popping off. And so can someone tell me what is going on with Radio Shack? Because I didn't check it out.
This is a family show. We have to tell you offline.
Okay. We'll find it a different time. But Parris, it was weird because they put that tweet out and I was like, man, I know that EA nowadays is thought of as the big sports publisher, right? All the multiplayers you can ask for. But it's as if they forgot like their roots. They forgot about some of the classics that they've had. I mean, we're riding high off the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. You have The Sims in the division. Mirror's Edge, Dragon Age is on the way soon. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and the new one. The disrespect to single-player games and some of their classics just felt really weird to come off there late at night and be like, man, that just doesn't feel right, EA. It just never felt good.
I mean, when I saw Vince Zampella, I was like, man, you stepped in it. Yeah, I mean, like Gary said, it was a thing. They were just trying to be clever, fit in with the cool kids and, do a clever meme. And it backfired. They obviously have responded and owned up to it and, accepted responsibility for that, which is fine. But yeah, it's a slippery slope when it comes to the brand accounts when they try to do something clever. Again, this is Xbox show, so this is relevant. I will always appreciate how Xbox responded to the Series S leak. That was clever, taking a bad moment and turning it into something positive. Like you said, Steakums is actually a really good one. They always have something funny
there's
to say.
a few. I mean, Wendy's. Yeah. There's a handful out there that will sometimes they've got good social media teams. But yeah, and you're right. Like everyone remembers how well they handled the Xbox Series S thing. But that was a situation where they needed to something to happen out of their control, and they needed to respond in some way. And they correctly went with the notion that like comedy will get if we make this right. If we like pretend that we were in on the joke here, and it's like we see the funny side of this that way, and it worked. That actually did work. They got a lot of goodwill out of that. But something like the EA tweet, it's just an unforced error. Like no one was asking for that tweet. It's like we got to get in on this. But it does feel very a bunch of middle-aged marketing executives going, "Oh, this thing just popped up on TikTok. How do we leverage that to our corporate advantage?"
Yeah.
No, it never works.
I'll give a big shout out. Xbox keeps it fun. So that social team is definitely keeping it fun. This one missed the mark. And just like Parris said, they did own up to it. The next tweet following up said, "Roast well deserved. We'll take the L because playing single player games actually makes them an 11. So good job on that one, EA. I think we all
That's
learned.
good. So they actually did respond.
They did respond.
They got some kudos back with the response.
I think we all learned a valuable lesson today on that one for sure. We all learned a valuable lesson.
It also, but going back to the feeling disingenuous and stuff like that, like this, it only feels like they're backpedaling because of how much they got dunked on and stuff like that. So that was neither of these tweets, even the follow up. I'm like, oh man, that's a good moment right there.
Let's finish the show with some really positive news for all of you Xbox fans out there. Halo Infinite co-op campaign, the beta and flight finally starts soon. Some really exciting stuff coming from the Halo Waypoint blog, a big blog detailing all the things you need to know about. I grabbed some of the big moments because I want to talk about it with the guys, because this is an exciting one. This is one that, the fans really wanted on day one, and we know that the team wasn't ready for that. It has been quite some time since release, and of course, the year-long delay, but we are finally right there, because the good news is the team is targeting the week of July 11th through the 22nd. So you're going to have about 11 days to jump in and have some fun. What they want you to make sure before I jump into the details is make sure you're part of the Halo Insider program. Then, of course, for console players, if you own the game or have Xbox Game Pass, you can get in via the Xbox Insider program. Just opt into the network co-op flight. And for Steam players, you can sign up for the Halo Insider program before July 5th for the special unique code. Mind you, the progress for whatever you do in this beta will not carry over because it is just a test. But here's some of the big questions that we had on our mind. How do you make this semi-open world new generation of Halo work with up to 4 players? And the team actually talked all about that. We had a really great sit down from Alex Wakeford and Isaac Bender, who's the principal software engineering lead, and John Mulkey, the lead world designer, answering all the questions that you need to know about. So first up, how will they support the new generation of Halo with co-op? The blog reads this: "One of our core principles is that we don't want to require you to have an isolated co-op save. Of course, you can use a separate save slot for co-op if you want to, but we wanted to give players the option to have co-op progress count towards your main playthrough if that's how you want to play. We also wanted everyone's progress to count towards their own saves, regardless of who the fire team leader is. I could be playing solo campaign, jump into a co-op session for a few hours, then launch back into a solo play, and all the mission progress, acquired collectibles, equipment found, achievements earned, and upgrades made in either session will be intact. Gone are the days of playing someone else's game while earning no progress. The way we are handling this," what'd you say?
I said, hello, Redfall.
Oh, Parris, you're the best. "The way we are handling this is through something we internally refer to as no Spartan left behind. When players join the fire team and choose their save slots to play on, the game aggregates the states of all the missions across those saves and sets up a world state in which any mission completed by all fire team members are marked as complete, while any missions not completed by all are marked as incomplete." So there you go. That's your first step of the big time details. Parris, you had the nice little jab over at Redfall. Of course, we know that is not really how you want a co-op game to really go down, looking at you Borderlands as well. But Parris, how do you feel about this no Spartan left behind? This is the right move, in my opinion. Are you digging this right now?
100% is the right move. I'm glad to see that. And that's just, I took the little jab at Redfall, but that was the disappointment that we saw with Redfall. It's good to see that Halo Infinite isn't going to repeat that. So you just get to go in, have fun with your friends, and it all counts. That's how it should be, right? So I'm looking forward to the co-op campaign. When we got the news about that, I was excited to see it, because this is something we've obviously been talking about since Halo Infinite came out, the lack of campaign co-op. And then obviously when Joe State was on here, we talked to him about that as well. Much needed feature. like I said, halfway through the campaign, I realized, man, I want to play this with my friends in Zeta Halo. I was talking to Danny yesterday. I go, yep, we're jumping in Legendary. We're going to go do it, knock this out. So I'm excited for it. I get this as a beta. Progress won't carry over to the final, to when it comes out officially. I guess what they say, September or something like that. But yeah, so it's almost here. Is it next week? Week after?
Yeah,
something like that?
yeah, July 11th, so 10 days from now. Monday, I believe, is what that date is. But yeah, Parris, you're so right. For me, as someone who plays a lot of co-op and multiplayer games, this is the answer. 343, you are nailing this. Of course, this will be a test. I'm sure there will be some hiccups. But when we talk about, hey, this is what a co-op game should look like in a shared world, having the idea of Gary coming in with a different save state of different missions, you coming in with different collectibles, me coming in with a whole different setup, whether I'm brand new or beating the game, and the idea that we can run through and actually identify, hey, who's missing this, who didn't do that, let's just queue up and do it. I think that's a great way, and that's really the correct answer. So 343, I'm going to give you a big shout out for that one, because that's exactly what I want to see. Now, another question, of course, is crossplay and how many players? I think the big question at the beginning was we didn't have the full details of 2 players or 4 players, right? But now we know any combination of PCs and Xboxes up to 4 players are supported, as is playing over Xbox Cloud Gaming. All co-op games are hosted on dedicated servers. In Halo Infinite, everyone is chief while playing campaign co-op. Gary Whitta, you've done some really cool storytelling in your world. How do you feel about 4 people being chief? Do you like that, or could we all just be different Spartans, or would that break the immersion, Gary?
I think inevitably, because I've been doing this recently. A friend of mine and I have been playing through Sniper Elite 5,
yes,
which is a ton of fun and has really good campaign co-op, and it's handled in a really good way. These games are always more fun to play with a friend. I think I love co-op campaigns. I really enjoy them, and it's always my preferred way to play. The problem is sometimes you have to kind of break the storytelling immersion a little bit. Like in Sniper Elite 5, you generally play the role of a kind of a lone, wolf kind of guy. Like you're behind enemy lines, you do it all yourself. But when you play a co-op game, the game kind of generates like a generic second character for you to play alongside. It's like, well, who's this person? This person isn't in any of the cutscenes that I just did, and it takes you out a little bit. But I understand why they have to. Sometimes it's you can't. It's difficult to build a storyline, that's going to accommodate both single and co-op play, especially if it might be 2, 3, 4 different players. So I get that it breaks the storytelling immersion. I understand why it's challenging for developers to do it without breaking the immersion a little bit. And for the most part, even though I love my story, I love my narrative context, my cutscenes, and like kind of feeling like I know what I'm doing and why. It's a trade-off that I think is worth it for the fun of having a co-op mode. The full storytelling immersion is going to be there for you in the single player mode if that's what you want. But if you want to play with a friend, yeah, you sometimes you've got to break that narrative a little bit in order to get that second player in the game with you. So I think it's a trade-off worth making.
Yeah, I look forward to that. And I think all of us running as Chief will be really cool and funny looking in the Warthog together. The final one, of course, I had the big question, Parris, when we talk about these outposts and all of these different places we're going to go, how far away can we get from each other? Can I go be doing one thing while you do another thing and we just break the game? Well, the team has the answer for that one. So the whole point of playing together is just that, playing together. Co-op allows a group of friends to join up as a fire team and tackle the various locations on the ring together. To that end, we have established what is called Area of Operations, AOO. This is the maximum distance that players in a fire team can stray from one another as they explore and tackle the challenges of Zeta Halo. If you stray too far from the fire team, you will get a warning to return to the team. If you ignore that warning and continue, you will be killed for going AWOL and be spawned back on your nearest teammate. We landed on tuning the AOO with 2 values, an inner warning radius, 800 feet, and an outer kill radius, 1,000 feet. To give you an idea of that scale in game, if 2 of you want to hit a really big objective like a banished dig site, the AOO will definitely allow you to tackle an objective of that size from opposite sides with room to spare. That's what I like to hear
I
because
like that.
we all know it, right? We're going to jump in with 4 of us, and we all want to go in different vantage points. We want to whip a warthog this way, bring in a wasp from the sky, maybe snipe from the ground. And that's what I want to know is how big is this radius where you're not spawning me back? It doesn't feel like I'm tethered, right? I think of Ark whenever I used to play Ark before we got the dedicated server. We'd all be tethered, and it'd be like 60 feet is what it felt like. I could never leave your side. And so I love that the team worked really hard on this one. And that's what I'm looking forward to. My question is Parris, we've played it single player, so I know what I can spawn in. Do you think they're going to let us all spawn in like scorpion tanks and like wasps, just all of us have 4 of those? Or do you think they'll limit the vehicles of how many we could have per team?
I would hope it's just open sandbox. Let us go nuts. Let us go nuts and do whatever we want. I hope it's not limited that way because like you're even saying, I would love to tackle an objective where we're all in scorpions or a scorpion, a warthog, a wasp, and a mongoose. You know what I mean? I want to be able to have mix and match however we see fit for any different scenario. So I hope that is the case, that we're going to be able to do that. Now, here's a question. If we're playing campaign, well, no, I guess it wouldn't matter. So I was thinking, as you progress through the campaign, you can upgrade the vehicles that are available to you. So if I'm playing with someone that's already upgraded all the vehicles and I just came in, I should technically, since I'm in their game, I should have access to all the vehicles. Right?
I would assume that is right. They did not get into that upgrade. It's funny you bring that up because they did bring up upgrades in the actual game, the Spartan cores, right? And so you'll be able to collect Spartan cores and everybody can level up however they want, right? So if Gary, they use the example of if he wants to level up the drop shield and you and I level up the grapple shots, we can do that without all being tied to one. Don't know about the vehicle ones, but we'll find out. That's a good question on that one.
Wait, actually on the Spartan core, because maybe I missed this. If I pick up a Spartan core, do we all get it?
I think that's a great question. I think we all get it. If you already had it, you don't get a new one.
Right.
If we didn't have it, we get it. I assume that we all be next to each other and pick it up ourselves.
Right.
Is how I took that. I don't think it's you got it and I was 800 feet that way and get it. I think everybody's got to touch it.
Yeah, but it's funny. Like I was telling Danny this too. Like, the one objective that I cannot wait to do co-op is actually the boss battle. It was the 2 brutes. I forget their names, but it's the 2 brutes that you have to take on at the same time. It's kind of that one
the
big
pelican. I
already have a strategy ready to go because those son of a guns would always double team me. So I cannot wait to go in there with 4 people and do that one. It's gonna be
my gosh,
fun.
I can't wait for that. I can't wait for the training montage, right, where you go through the different levels that Atriox is putting you through and the different UNSC stuff. I think that will be a ton of fun. The road right after that, where you get in the Scorpion and the freaking music bangs and 4 of us are going to be driving straight down the road towards the ending. That will be awesome. So a lot of fun. Very excited. 343 working on campaign co-op. The flight/beta will be July 11th. So make sure you're signed up. Make sure you opt in and get ready for that one. And a cool one that I got to give a shout out. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year because Summer Games Done Quick is happening right now. Everybody loves SGDQ and AGDQ and all the awesome stuff that they do, raising money and awareness for an awesome charity each and every year, and also speedrunning your favorite video games. And this year, there was a speedrunner who did Halo Infinite, beat it in less than an hour and a half, and it was awesome to see them absolutely break that game using the grapple shots, getting up to the final boss with Atriox, where he goes, oh yeah, this is Atriox, this is great, but I don't want to fight him, and ran out of the map, went like 500 yards the opposite way to the point where Atriox just gave up the fight. Mission was over. They kept it moving. I thought it was so cool. So make sure to check it out on that one. But guys, some really positive news from 343. The excitement for campaign co-op. EA putting their shoe in their mouth. So, Twitter, be better on that one, Twitter. And of course, Parris is driving a Tesla. That's been your week's Xcast. We got to get these guys out of here and get ready for the big holiday weekend. A little 3-day weekend here. Be safe on the 4th of July if you're here in the States. Make sure you're mindful of fireworks if you're touching and using those, please. And have a ton of fun. On behalf of my 2 gaming dads and Bear Courtney, this has been another episode of the KindaFunny Xcast. We'll catch you back here next week. Peace, everybody.